Alright, so guys, welcome back. In this exciting lesson, I'm going to talk about some of the very important and a different aspect of the Maya fluids. A sort of secret that it kept itself hidden from us, but now we're going to reveal that up. How? Till now, we have progressed through the paths of learning and analyzing the dynamic grids only. What dynamic grids actually means is that controlling the behavior of the voxels of densities and velocity with respect to the time, and of course with some intelligent solvers like the way they compute the physics. Okay, and because of that, we can create the impact of the fire, explosions, dust, mist, smoke, sand, something like that. All right. Now we can talk about the textural aspect of the fluids because in Maya, the fluid can also be treated as a texture and a shader node also. Okay, so with this beautiful volume setup rendering system, we're going to talk about how we're going to create the sand which is basically dispersed upon the ground as the demand of the concept says. Okay, so here you can see in front of me the image that I have created with the help of the Maya fluids by using only its textural and the static aspect. Okay, so without any further I say, let me just walk up into the settings. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna create the 3D containers. So the settings will be under the fluid effects, go to the create 3D containers. All right, that's really gonna be simple, and by using the Control A attribute editor, I'm gonna create the important settings of the base resolutions as well as the size. Well, everyone must be remembering that the size of the fluid is basically in 1/4 with respect to the base resolutions. For example, if I'm working upon size of the 10, then ideally it should be 40, okay? But we do not keep that up because, now as the demand of the concepts or some very compelling visual effects are there, so we always tend to increase them, but that's basically the minimal or the ideal resolutions we have to keep. But the good thing for this reaction or for this course, this lesson is that the base resolution is basically independent of that. Reason why? Because we are utilizing the static grids, the textural aspect, not the dynamic grids. But just for the sake of a better demonstration as well as the overview, I would like to recommend the 60 will going to be obviously a good start. So what I'm going to do is that let me just put that thing up to the 60, and I'm going to control the size since it's really going to be the big area should be dispersed all upon to the ground. So 80 would going to be the best start. Along with that, Z also set that thing to the 80. But for the y-axis, since I don't want them to be, too much rays from the portion or from the section of the ground, I like to keep them up with 0.35. That should be the best start for me. Okay. Now, as you can see that I've already put some textures onto the ground. That's also really going to be important. Next, what I'm going to do is that I just quickly going to line up my fluid upon the ground. Okay, so just putting the alt and down arrow, I can adjust them very quickly and easily. All right, now that's fine. Now next thing is that the content method, that's really going to be very important. The density shouldn't be going to be the dynamic grid this time, but in fact I'm going to use the gradient aspect. Okay, so that all the voxels should filled up with the default opacity graph, and we're going to tweak that up, of course. The density gradient is also required to set to the y gradient so that I can use some little bit more follow from the top side, okay, or from the positive y-axis. Now just closing this up once again and coming back to the display section, I would like to increase the voxels. The slices per voxel should be 3 to 4 just to improve the visual quality, alright. And of course we can switch to the voxel quality, set that thing to the better. Okay, but this gonna make me a little bit more heavy, so I think so the faster we're gonna work fine, as I'm not gonna see that thing into the display mode. I'm gonna just render them up for you. And of course the bounding draw should be set that into the bounding box so that it could give us some more comfort. That's fine. Now the soul of the lesson is, guys, again the shading, controlling the transparency, managing the opacity graph, and of course controlling the textural aspects of the fluids. So first of all, I'm gonna walk into the transparency. I recommend all of you to set some tighter values of transparency without leaving a much gap, like 0.1 value will also not going to be separate. So just put that thing nearly to the close end. Alright, so that's going to be fine. And the drop off shape should also require to be switched to the 0 because I just don't want any fall off or faded section of the fluids from the corner part. The color will going to be extremely important as discussed with you before also in the previous lesson. Like we are into the external atmosphere where the impact of the sun and sky is there, so that's going to make the scene completely desaturated as compared to the artificial lighting. So there are not going to be any artificial lighting, so the color of the fluid should also depends upon the color of the exteriors, which are indeed less saturated. So what I'm going to do is that with this two color entry list, I can create this color from the last and this color for the first part. But I just gonna reduce some more saturation and bring that thing to more dark values. That's completely fine. And let me just put that thing to 0.2. That's gonna be fine. Now for the opacity graph, first of all, very quickly we would like to build this graph, but later I'm gonna come onto the input bias section where I'm gonna guide you how important is the value with the negative axis. Okay, but this time the graph will seems to be like in this way, since I want that graph to have some sharper values. Okay, so that's completely gonna be perfect. I'm gonna come to this value input bias, but just in a minute. Okay, so till now we have this basic setup. Now I'm gonna press the 6 option here to enable the texture mode. By pressing 6, I would like to go to the textures by clicking up to the texture colors. Okay, so here you can see that it has utilized the Perlin noise texture type by clicking to the texture color. But we're not going to do anything with the Perlin noise. I would like to go for the space time, since I feel myself much better and comfortable in the space time. Okay, now it's again important for us to utilize the texture opacity also. So let me just quickly tick to the texture opacity. That's gonna be fine. And then let's just do one thing. Let me just isolate that one so that I can put my focus only onto the fluid. Okay, and here you can see that this is just guys, a problem only in the visual display. That's nothing gonna do when we're gonna do the rendering. Okay, so if that comes, so just focus on the top side so you can just get rid of them. Okay, now just to improve the quality of the fluids, just raise the amplitude to 2. Okay, so that you can find some more gaps, or you can say some more contrast in this texture aspects. The threshold needs to be 0.2 so that it's gonna bring up with some soft or the fadedness in these small holes. Again, I'm gonna use the ratio to 0.7 to make them more crispier. The frequency is required to be 3 because I want the sand to be a little bit crispy and it should have some details. The depth max should also set that to the 6 to grab much more detail once again. Okay, by setting them all, I would like to first of all take the render and then we're gonna go further. But before I hit the button render, I also advise or required to use the self shadow, because if I don't switch that on, this by default real lights option is on and will make the fluids completely dark. That will not going to be appear in the rendering. So first of all, it is required to play with this value so you can get some more contrast, or you can say the believability in the scene. Then of course, like the way we proceed all the time, the ambient brightness should be set that thing to 0.3, and of course the color should also set that thing to the lighter brown value. Just switch off the real lights in case if you don't have the lights inside your scene, and just put that thing to 0.5. So that's going to be fine. 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 for all the X, Y, Z aspects of the directional light. Completely fine, completely okay, not going to be any problem for me. So now what I'm going to do is that first of all, I like to take the render of this thing. Okay, that's the previous render, guys. I'm going to click to the you can see the camera view and camera snapshot. Then I'm going to take the render view. Alright, so guys, I think so it's time to give a stop to this lesson, and we're going to see the beginning of the rendering into the next lesson. Alright.